Living Waters presents On the Box.
Whoops.
Rainy days and Mondays, they don't get me down. Welcome to On the Box with Ray Comfort.
It's a different beginning. You have a good weekend?
I had a really good
Tell
weekend.
us about it. You go first.
You want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go first. Started Friday night at the Valencia Town Center. We set up the Evangelism table. Had conversations nonstop for about 3 hours.
Oh, how wonderful. That's in a mall?
In a mall.
Wow.
Valencia Town Center in a mall. They set up a table for us. They give us chairs. We put out anything we want to put out to hand out to folks.
You're shaking your head, pinching yourself, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could have been doing this for years.
Yeah.
But frankly, I was just lazy.
Yeah.
It was easier to go in covertly and look over my shoulders to see if security's coming.
Yeah. We don't want anyone to know about the separation of mall and church.
Yeah. Anyways, it was a fantastic night. Young and old were hearing the gospel all night long. And then Saturday morning, went out early. Had to go out early because I had a special event in the afternoon. Went out about 8 o'clock in the morning to the North Hollywood Metro Center to open air preach.
8 o'clock in the morning?
8 o'clock in the morning. And the Jehovah's Witnesses were out in force.
Wow.
That's one of their stomping grounds. So I spent 2 hours driving them from the ground.
You did?
I did.
What were you doing?
I was letting everybody know not to take their literature and what their religion believes.
Well, they
and
won't
that they
take
were
anyone
endangered.
else's literature. Jehovah's
Right,
Witnesses, it's one of their tenets. You know?
So after a couple of hours, there was only one of them left. And he stayed and he listened to the preaching. And
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and at one point I went directly to him with the gospel. So I'm working on that video now. I'm hoping to have that posted in a day or
very
two.
cool.
But the best part of the weekend, Ray?
Dinner?
No. My
Graduation.
My youngest daughter, Amanda, graduated from high school.
Oh, that's great.
On Saturday, and she was the only. There was a speaker, pastor from a local church.
She's the one in the middle?
She's the one in the middle. Yeah, and she presented the law and the gospel in her speech.
She did?
She did.
Wow.
Yeah, I was very, very proud of her. That was the only time the gospel was preached during
And
the whole
read
ceremony.
for the blood of Christ too. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Cornerstone Christian School.
Yes.
So, anyways, proud of my kids. What did you do this weekend?
Went hunting the beach. Had a bee Saturday. I think it was pretty good. We had a good crowd for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Just me and Scotty. Great time. That's it.
And
And I did go to Cerritos College this morning.
more bites? I mean, more great interviews?
Yeah, it
or-
was closed. Semi-closed.
Really?
It's some summer holiday or some summer classes or some summer. So it was about a hundredth of the students, but I got one really good interview.
you?
Yeah, I said to a guy, gave him a moral scenario, said next door to a bank, you can reach into their vault through a trap door, take $2 million, and no one will know. Would you take it? And he said, yeah, I'd take that. And I said, would you kill someone for $10 million? Gave him that scenario, and he said, no, I wouldn't do that. I said, where do you get your morals? I said, is it from God? Do you fear God? Are you a Christian? He says, yeah, I'm a Christian. I said, and you're stealing from a bank? And I said, when did you last read your Bible? He said, I've never read the Bible. So I had a great time witnessing to him. And he was really cooked, really ready to accept Christ. So I was really thrilled.
Outstanding.
Or for Christ to accept him, Todd Friel.
Mark, what'd you do this weekend?
We went to the Orange Block. We had a great time. Had a great conversation with a couple of kids. It's been kind of my MO lately to go up to a couple of kids that are a little too close in public and just kind of interrupt them. Say, excuse me, you guys know each other? And then I followed up. I gave him a track, and I in this scenario, I gave her $1 million bill, and I gave him a ticket to heaven. And I tried to see if he could rip it. He couldn't rip it in front of me. I'm able to rip him. I go, there I go. I ripped up your ticket to heaven. Now what are you going to do? What do you think someone has to do in order to get to heaven? So we got into a good conversation. He was listening, intently. I think right when we were talking about adultery and fornication with that, boy, they were a little uncomfortable, but they were very gracious. They listened in to what I had to say, and it went good. We filled out, or we rather received one of the forms that you were talking about, Tony, with the mall, to set up a table. But one thing that we have to do is we have to set up we have to fill out a form every single week.
Oh, that's a drag.
Now, I guess you put in your dates and you're good
for the rest of the year.
For the rest of the year, that's crazy. We cannot put in 2 requests when one request is pending, and one request takes 5 to 10 business days before we can actually hear back to see what's going to happen.
You know why they do that, of course.
Why is
they're
it?
hoping you're going to give up and just go away.
Yeah, well, I have Anita on it, so Anita can't give up. It's her job.
And Mark, I wonder if they can legally do that. They're hindering you from your rights.
Well, they actually can legally do that so long as they do the exact same thing to everybody that applies for that application. And they do. And ultimately, the stricter the policy, the more they just want you to go away.
Yeah.
But again, I'm hearing rumors from credible sources that those kind of policies may be even going by the wayside. It may get to the point, at least here in California, mind you, that you may not even have to fill out an application to do something like that. So we're still waiting to see if that's going to in fact happen. So.
Good.
All right. From great weekends for one and all to some very disturbing news out of a Christian college. This is from Christian News. It's posted by Heather Clark, and the headline reads, Staff of Christian University, they should have put that in quotes.
Yeah.
Staff of Christian University resigns in droves after refusing to sign personal lifestyle statement. A historic Christian university in Rome, Georgia. Didn't even know there was a Christian university in Rome, Georgia. I didn't even know there was a Rome, Georgia. So I'm wondering how historic this Christian university is.
Oh, yeah, there is a Roman George. Yeah, I've heard of that, yes.
Have you?
Yeah, I think so.
No, you're thinking of Roman and George.
Oh, that must be it. Roman and
Roman
George.
and George. Speaking of Roman and George, go to romanandgeorge.com. You can watch, I think, the first 3 episodes. They're on a fundraising drive right now to raise funds for another 3 or 4 episodes. And we love Roman and George, and we would encourage you to visit their site and help out if you can.
And we love Greg Alsasser, too.
And we love Drew Morgan, too.
Yeah, and we love everybody.
Just Greg?
Just
I love Drew.
Loved Richard Dawkins, too.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, we all do.
All right.
Don't we?
Not that we think that Drew and Greg are like Richard Dawkins.
It goes without saying.
Except for Drew. No? Okay.
Except for Drew.
All right. A historic Christian university in Rome, Georgia has received record resignation letters from staffers after mandating that its employees sign a personal lifestyle statement. Reports indicate that nearly 60 out of the 200 employees at Shorter University have decided to leave the educational institution rather than sign the statement, which outlines a moral code that staff are required to live by. The statement reads, quote, I reject as acceptable all sexual activity not in agreement with the Bible, including but not limited to premarital sex, adultery, and homosexuality, end quote. It also prohibits the promotion of alcohol and states that employees, quote, are expected to be active members of a local church, end quote. Professors and students alike have become so enraged about the requirement that they have launched a website called, quote, Save Our Shorter, end quote. The website outlines that since the university has come under, quote unquote, fundamentalist leadership, it has made changes that the members of Shorter University are unhappy with. Quote, students sunbathing on the lawn, as Shorter students have done for many, many years, were told that their behavior was no longer acceptable. And the opera Elixir of Love, a repertoire standard, was banned because alcohol was part of the plot. The Harry Potter novels were also no longer allowed to be used for courses, end quote, the website explained. Save Our Shorter also features commentary from students and staff who explain why they are leaving the university. Quote, how can a self-proclaimed Christian university come out with a document that is not Christ-like at all? McKinley Starks, an openly homosexual student, stated, referring to the required lifestyle statement, quote, I feel that Shorter, the GBC, the Board of Trustees, and or whoever can do what they want to, the school, it's their school, but I cannot personally attend a school so full of hate, end quote. I'm going to stop there.
This should be known as the Shorter Catechism.
Explain.
They should. It's good that these guys are resigning. It's cleaning out the.
Oh, you mean the statement should be?
Yes, Shorter.
Okay.
It's kind of like a joke.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's causing these false converts to get out of there.
Yeah.
And they should do the same thing without a church in America. Get the false converts out of the pulpits.
Absolutely. It's no different than shining a bright light in an area where cockroaches reside. Mm-hmm. The cockroaches flee as soon as you introduce light. Mark, what do you think?
Boy, I love your guys' illustrations. I remember doing some, as Ray would say, endless counseling to people. When you're all done, you find out that they're not Christians. Anywho. And they would end up leaving the church because they did not like biblical sound advice. And when they would leave the church, we would call it amongst the elders, we would say, what a blessed reduction. When somebody like that would end up leaving the church. So I would look at, I actually went on the blog there.
Oh, you did?
And I had put, hey, great. God bless you as you go your way. What a blessed reduction for that college. Now God can do what he wants to do. Be God in that church. It's been said that a lot of churches and organizations get so busy doing things that if the Holy Spirit were to stand aloof, nobody would even notice it because everybody is doing everything in their own power.
Yeah.
Not invoking God to do what he wants to do, to live that perfect life, to do what he wants to do through man. It's just, it's craziness. So I look at this and I go, wow, this is great. I'm absolutely thrilled. I think of Al Mohler Jr., how he did the same thing with Southwestern. When he stepped up, he really cleaned out the university, and many people ended up leaving. And I go, wow, what courage it takes to be able to do this. And I pray that the people who make the decisions at this university do not give way to the heckles of the crowd of the people saying, hey, you need to revoke that. You need to allow all people to come inside there no matter what their sexual preference is, or no matter what they want to believe and say. So,
can we get an email address where we can encourage this university?
That's
good.
We actually do. We have, I think we had 3 emails that came in over the weekend. I'll forward those over to you.
All right. Excellent. Outstanding. Hey, something else. I sent you an email. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. But the youth pastor that led the effort to Waggoner High School
I read that,
in Oklahoma.
Yeah, he's very mature. Great attitude.
So good. I'm hoping I'm sure you're going to be corresponding with him. And
yes, I'll write him a note.
We'll plot something else for Waggoner too. So, okay. All right. Speaking of bright lights, our friends Marcus Pittman and David Shannon, the two amigos from crownrights.org.
Is this the police one yet?
No, you really like that one.
I like that
was
one.
One of my favorites too.
Yeah.
I think that's somewhere in the 20s.
Okay.
But this is day 7 of 30 failed sunrises. Take a look.
Where am I going? Does it matter? It's like the world's turned into a giant rat focus. Hey, bro. Let's go get some breakfast. Yep.
Check out 180movie.com.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Well, Ray, they simply went out on a very, very dark, rainy, dismal day looking for a sunrise, and there was no sunrise, so they opted to go get some breakfast.
See them checking out YouTube
and if
or
you
something.
look closely at those two guys, they enjoy breakfast a lot.
Yes.
I'm guessing they get a first breakfast and a second breakfast, then a mid-morning snack, lunch, secondary lunch.
They're good-looking guys.
Pre-dinner snack.
Let's cross over to Mark. How you doing, Mark?
Boy, those guys are ingenious. That's all I can say. I love Marcus Pittman and Chocolate Knox. And what is our next segment? It's
Next segment is from Manuel and Maria Brambilla.
Oh, you got to show this.
From the south of France.
Yeah.
Great video. I watched
Manuel's
it today.
my personal assistant.
Yeah.
And he's great.
And Manuel and Maria came through, I believe, March of 2010 to the Ambassadors Academy. And they're doing a lot of evangelism and training throughout the Mediterranean. And so now they're starting a series of videos called 2-Minute Evangelism Tips. And we're going to look at the first one now.
Good.
Hello, my name is Maria and I'm on the 65th Cannes Film Festival. Today I will share with you some tips how to pass out gospel tracts effectively. Follow me. Tip number 1. Be confident. There are thousands of people here, and if you approach them with a shy smile, not knowing what you're doing, nobody gonna take advantage. So watch this out. Second team, always smile. Number 3, you never, ever approach people saying something like, "Excuse me, sir, I would like to share with you love of God." Never. You just go and say, "A million." If I can do it, you can do it. Let's review our tips of today. First, be confident. Second, always smile. And third, go and say, "A million." So, if you guys have any suggestions or comments, please go to our website. That was Maria from the Cannesville Festival. Bye and God bless you.
You see the guy in the sort of semi-priest.
I don't know. It was like dressed like a priest with a girdle on the outside, carrying an umbrella in the sun.
They look kind of strange.
Creepy. Yeah. If I ran into him in an alley, one of us is going to jail, and it's not me. Maria's a wonderful lady, fluent in 4 languages. Just in case you couldn't pick up all
Russian.
4 accents.
That's Russian.
She speaks Russian, French, Spanish, and English.
I do 5. Did you know that?
Do you really?
Australian, Scottish, Irish, a little bit of Indian, sir, and a few others.
How about English?
Yeah, I'm trying English.
All right, first question of the day. Before we do that, let's introduce our guest, Keith Randolph from Big Bear, California, up there in the beautiful mountains.
Do we have applause yet? I meant a tape of applause.
We could probably get that. But don't you think that sounds kind of cheesy, though?
Yeah, that's the funny part about it.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's the cheese that's
Danny's
funny.
waving his hand as if he has authority. You don't, Danny.
No.
If we want applause, we're going to get it. So we welcome Keith from Big Bear. Why he would come out of the clear blue skies of beautiful Big Bear Mountain to come down here where we only trust the air we could see.
I know why. Because it's good to get back.
Ah, that's good. Yeah, you got to come down from the mountain every once in a while to appreciate the mountain. Huh? Okay. First question from for the day is from Stephanie. How common is it to do the "Have you ever murdered anyone?" question in the good person test? And the person says, yes.
I think I've had that once, if I remember right.
Really?
I can't remember the details, but yeah, it freaked me out a little.
Yeah, she said, I just started tracting and evangelizing with my husband, and it has happened twice already. It's not funny, but the shock of the response and the pregnant pause afterwards makes me want to laugh nervously, and it completely throws us both off pace. Thank you for your ministry. You are an encouragement and a light in a dark place. So when did that happen to you?
I can't remember, but I would move to another city if that's happened. If that's happened twice, I'd just move.
I was in Burbank a few years ago, and I walked up to a guy, engaged him in conversation, got all the formalities out of the way, went through the good person test, and when I got to the 6th commandment, he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, I just got out of prison for that."
Wow.
Yeah, and
200,000 people were murdered in the 1990s just in the U.S., so the odds are you're going to strike him a lot.
Well, and half of the murders committed every year are remain unsolved.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but that was an interesting conversation. I wasn't armed that night, and so I kept a safe distance. But he was a very humble guy, and
he'd humbly shoot you.
Well, it seemed to me that, and he was sitting there with his wife. And admitting that, and you could see tears in her eyes, tears coming to his eyes.
Wow.
They were both very contrite, and I don't know for sure, but I think the Lord might have saved him that night. But yeah, that was the only time I've had that happen. Mark, how about you?
You know, I have had it done a couple times, and usually when that happens, I stop right there. And I focus in on that sin, that crime against humanity, but ultimately against God. And I say, hey, well, so what do you think's going to happen to you, man, on Judgment Day? I mean, do you think all murderers should go to heaven? Do you think half of them go to heaven? I mean, those with a good alibi get to go to heaven? Well, what are your thoughts? And I wouldn't go any further, really, with that point. I'd begin to drive that home. And I don't remember exactly how it went in times past, but I do know whenever I find a sin that seems to be overwhelming in somebody's life, whether it be adultery or stealing or whatever it is, I try to drive home as many illustrations, as many verses as I possibly can think of concerning that subject matter. Because that seems to be the crime inside their life that is going to be so grandeur, it's going to keep them out of heaven, because either they love that sin or they're so overwhelmed by it that they can't think straightly. So either way, they need grace and mercy if they're willing to receive the payment that Jesus Christ did. Yeah. So I don't go any further when I come across something like that.
And Mark, I think you bring up a really good point. One of the knocks against Living Waters and the Way of the Master is that we're creating robots, we're teaching people how to follow scripts. God gave us 2 ears and one mouth for one reason. Mm-hmm. We need to be good listeners when we're out there. And if you find yourself just running over conversations and not picking up on the fact that someone is broken over a particular sin, and you are so committed to get through 3 or 4 or 5 of the commandments, you may be doing things too scripted.
Right.
You know, you need to, as Mark brought up, you run into someone who said, yes, I've murdered. Well, hang on, I want to ask you about adultery, coveting, and blasphemy too. You should stop what you're doing, camp out on that, and like Mark said, bring as many illustrations as you can. You know, and I've shared it a few times now. There was a guy out at Bram Boulevard. I asked him if he had ever told a lie, and he was immediately convicted for the lies he's told in business, the lies he's told to his wife, and I didn't go over any of the other commandments. Right. Saw the conviction in him, and made sure he understood the sinfulness of sin and the consequences, and then went to the gospel.
Right. Good point.
All right. Prayer as a tactic with Jehovah's Witness. This was interesting. This is from Pastor James. Over the years, I have had a myriad of discussions at the doorstep with Jehovah's Witnesses. Surprised they haven't put them on the ban list yet.
Yes.
Recently, instead of debating or attempting to reason with them from the scriptures, I took a different approach. After greeting them and asking for their names so I could address them personally, I asked if I could pray for them on the spot. They looked a bit shocked, probably because this had not happened before, but immediately bowed their heads as we held hands and I began to pray for them. I used this, quote, prayer time to simply preach the gospel to them without interruption. I used John 16:8-11 in referring to sin, righteousness, and judgment, and their need for Jesus as the only Savior from their sin. Upon completion of this prayer sermon, I could see that the woman, J.W., had tears in her eyes, and they both thanked me and walked away looking a bit stunned. What are your thoughts about this approach? P.S. Say hello to my good friend Alan Pearson. Alan! Pastor James says hi!
You just laughed at your own joke.
Well, I'm sorry. I saw Mark in the studio a couple miles away doing a sorry, Mark. I'm sorry.
Everybody in the neighborhood was
doing
doing
he coming in? Thought I heard the door. Or is that just my voice blowing the door open? Anyways, what do you think about...
I think it's good, it's different, it's novel. I would have a caution. I'd hate this Jehovah's Witness to go away thinking that you were praying God's blessing on them. Yeah. The caution I would have is that the Jehovah's Witness needs to be stripped of their self-righteousness by the law. So if you brought the commandments into your prayer time, which should probably take a while to pray it through, you'd be very clever to do so. That's good, but yeah.
You've done that in restaurants, right?
What's that?
Praying before a meal, you've proclaimed the law and the gospel during your prayer.
Right.
Haven't you done that?
When was this?
Well, I heard stories about how you do this during
I heard stories too. I don't know.
Oh, come on. It's not legend. You've done that.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? You think that would be a good idea?
What? To go through the gospel? I think I might have done it sort of briefly, once or twice, yeah.
And I agree with you, Ray. I think if you're going to, pray with someone who clearly is involved in a cult worshiping a different God, a different Jesus, you need to be very careful that you are not praying with them, but that you're praying for them. 2 Corinthians 6:14-18 makes it very, very clear that we are not to enter into any spiritual enterprise of any kind with those who do not know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. So, Mark?
Yeah, for a long time, I used to meet with some Jehovah's Witnesses and some Mormons, and it's very clear that we serve a different God. So when it comes time for prayer, or if I would ask for prayer, I would always make sure that I was the one praying. I would never allow them to pray. And I would tell them, straight out, I would say, you know what, hey, do you mind if I pray? Because I believe that we are serving two different gods, and since you have no problem with me praying, and I have a problem with you praying, then we would have no problem if I just led the whole prayer. And they were very cordial towards me when I'd bring that out to both groups of people, both the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons, when I would do that. I really like this approach. I think it's a little unorthodox, but who says you have to be orthodox? And what book are you following to be orthodox? As long as you cover the essentials in that gospel presentation, then, man, come up with as many creative and innovative ways as you possibly can. And don't forget to send those to us. We love them. We love hearing these over and over again on what people are doing to try to reach the lost. It's brilliant.
OnTheBoxOfLivingWaters.com, OnTheBoxOfLivingWaters.com. Interesting that Mark would use the word unorthodox.
Yes.
Describing evangelism, considering all the different things we have tried over the years and continue to try. I think a lot of folks call us unorthodox, too.
I could write books about the dumb things I've tried to present the gospel, and I'll keep doing them.
You haven't written that one?
Not yet.
That would be a good one. You've written what, 101 dumb things that men do?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
101 dumb things evangelists do. That would be funny.
I would star in the book.
But didn't you star in the last one?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Look, I think with the collective mistakes that we've made in this building, you could probably do 1,000,001 dumb things evangelists do.
That's true.
I know certainly, I've been out there on the streets much shorter time than you have, but I've done probably a lot more dumb things than you have. So if you want any...
I doubt that, Tony. I doubt if your wife has received sympathy cards from different women after they've read your books. Two different cards. You've got 18 seconds to wind this up.
And I could do it right now. Till tomorrow. Be encouraged, strengthened, and unafraid. 13, 12, 11, 10. Proclaim the gospel. Go home early.
Amen.
Full of it! Living Waters presents On the Box.